Listen, let me spill this tea because the streets are buzzing and the whispers are louder than ever. On August 17th, 2025, New York got shook. 6ix9ine's girl, Ariela Lang Costa Mahia Polano, was murdered. And let me tell you, people ain't buying the random excuse. Nope. They're convinced this wasn't no accident. This was a setup, a trap. And the target? Tekashi SixNine himself.
They know 6ix9ine can't be no goddamn MDC Brooklyn.
Why not?
He cooperated. You're gonna kill him.
Word on the block? The killer wanted to pin this on him to drag his name through the mud even more. And with his messy, toxic past always chasing him, a lot of folks believe this might just be the move that finally pushes him out of the game for good. So, let's break it all down. This wasn't just some random beef spilling over. Ariela's death was straight up psychological warfare. Like, whoever did this wasn't just trying to leave another body on the ground. They wanted to break down the most hated snitch in hip-hop history piece by piece. And they went for the jugular, the people he held close to his heart. But before we even get to Ariela's tragic story, you gotta understand the dude at the center of it all. Daniel Hernandez, aka Tekashi SixNine. This man's violent, abusive past? It didn't just make him enemies, it created the perfect storm. Ariela didn't just become a target because of him. She became a pawn in the game his toxic behavior created. And let's keep it real. This ain't speculation. This is documented fact. Back in 2019, during his racketeering case hearings, Hernandez himself admitted to years of domestic violence. We're talking 7 years of abuse against Sarah Molina, the mother of his child. That wasn't no one-time slip-up. This was a pattern, ugly, sustained, and getting worse as his fame grew and his ego exploded. Sarah's stories paint a nightmare. She went on record with the Daily Beast, saying how he beat her for 2 hours straight in Dubai back in 2018. Imagine this. She's getting punched so hard in the ear she thought she'd go deaf. He choked her, pressed a pillow against her face, knowing damn well she was terrified of suffocating. She ended up with 2 black eyes, a busted ear, bruises everywhere. And the worst part? After all that torture, he forced himself on her while she was crying, eyes swollen shut.
So, I think it started with his old manager. His old manager was managing someone who was blood, like 9 Trey. And I guess through mutual management, that's how he ended up messing with those dudes.
And if you think that's the worst of it, hold up. This man didn't even stop in front of his child. In April 2018, while their 2-year-old daughter Soraya was in the car, Tekashi put hands on Sarah again. Their baby girl was crying, watching her mom get assaulted, and when things escalated, he allegedly even laid hands on his own toddler. That's when his manager had to step in like, "Yo, what are you doing?"
He was never really gangbanging before he met the people he met. He wasn't really selling no drugs. He wasn't, that's just not what he was doing.
But Sarah wasn't the only one. Nah, his violence didn't stop there. Another ex, Georgina Yalen Lamas Viral Diaz, came forward in 2024 with her own horror stories. She straight up filed a federal lawsuit saying Hernandez abused her throughout their year-long relationship. He punched her, threatened to throw her off a balcony, at her own daughter's baptism no less. On top of that, he controlled her life down to her looks, forcing her into surgeries he wanted, telling her she was worthless without him. Oh, and he robbed her too. Hundreds of thousands gone, while he trapped her by holding onto her passport. Do you see the pattern here? Women around him weren't just in relationships, they were in war zones, and it didn't stop at his relationships. Violence was part of his brand. This man choked out a 16-year-old fan at a Houston mall in 2018 because the kid mouthed off. He got into it with cops during a traffic stop. In 2023, locked up in the Dominican Republic for allegedly beating 2 producers so bad, one needed jaw surgery. This is the environment Ariela walked into. When his enemies came for her, they weren't just hitting a random target, they were flipping his own toxic past back on him. They knew killing someone he cared about would crush him mentally, but they also knew his abusive history would automatically make him look guilty. It was genius, in the most twisted way. And check this. The timing of Ariela's murder wasn't coincidence. In the months leading up to her death, Tekashi was drowning in legal trouble. In March 2024, cops raided his Florida home, finding drugs and a gun, a probation violation. By July 2025, he pled guilty to cocaine and MDMA possession. His sentencing? Just a month away, in September. His life was hanging by a thread. So what better moment to strike than when he's already vulnerable? They knew he was fragile, scared, his freedom dangling in front of him. And then boom, they hit him where it hurts the most. Investigators even said the way Ariela was murdered screamed professional hit. We're talking shattered windows, bullet holes, execution-style precision. This wasn't rage. This wasn't random. This was a cold, calculated chess move. And remember, Ariela wasn't just anyone. She had history with 6ix9ine's enemies too, which meant taking her out served multiple purposes: scare Tekashi, destroy him mentally, and maybe even lure him into a trap of his own. To really get why this all spiraled the way it did, you gotta rewind to 2017. Tekashi linked up with the 9 Bloods, not because he was about that life, but because he needed the image. They gave him street cred, protection, and in return, he funneled money into the gang. His breakout hit Gummo? Yeah, that video featured 9 members flashing rags and straps, and the controversy turned into 350 million views. Money and fame skyrocketed, but fame comes with a price. He wasn't just playing dress up in gang colors. He got deep in it. Robberies, shootings, paying $20,000 to scare Chief Keef, even being tied to a bystander getting shot. By 2018, though, things soured. The same gang that boosted him started seeing him as a liability. In fact, in July 2018, they straight up kidnapped him. Robbed him of jewelry. That betrayal pushed him toward his most infamous move, snitching. The rumors started right after his November 2018 arrest. He got transferred to a facility for cooperating witnesses. His lawyer tried to deny it, but by February 2019, the truth was out. Tekashi pled guilty to 9 charges, from racketeering to gun and drug trafficking, and then he testified against his old crew. He spilled everything: payments, shootings, even gang betrayals. And when he testified about how they kidnapped him, how they slept with his baby mama, how they plotted against his own mom, he basically said, they did me dirty first. I owe them nothing. The result? His enemies got decades in prison. Anthony Ellison, 24 years. Meanwhile, Tekashi's sentence was slashed to 2 years, and with COVID risks, he was out early in 2020. But here's the thing, the streets don't forgive, and they don't forget. Snitching is the ultimate betrayal. You could rob, you could kill, you could do dirt, but snitch? That's a death sentence. And Tekashi? He didn't just snitch, he embraced it, owned it, almost bragged about it, which is why retaliation never stopped. By 2023, he got jumped at an LA fitness gym, beat so bad he left with injuries to his face, ribs, and back. And people knew. This was just the beginning. But here's the darkest part. His decision to flip didn't just put a target on his back, it put one on everyone connected to him. Sarah Molina, his baby mama, said she got death threats. Their daughter's safety? Constantly at risk. Gang logic is cold. If you can't get the snitch, you go after the people he loves, and that's exactly what happened with Ariela. So now, let's zero in on Ariela Mejia Polano. Her story is heartbreaking, and honestly, it shows just how dangerous it can be to orbit someone like 6ix9ine. She wasn't just some girl hanging out at clubs. She had already crossed paths with 9 years before. Back in 2018, she got kidnapped by 9 members. They mistook her for one of 6ix9ine's girls during all that gang infighting. Can you imagine the trauma of that? But it didn't end there. When the feds took 9 to court in 2019, Ariela testified. She stood up as a witness, telling the court about her kidnapping, her ordeal. That testimony helped put dangerous men behind bars. But in the twisted logic of street codes, that made her just as much of a rat as 6ix9ine. Didn't matter that she was the victim. Didn't matter that she was telling her truth. To them, she broke the rule. And for that, her name was marked. That's how gangs see it. If you testify, if you cooperate, you're done. You're branded. And that mark doesn't fade. Now, some people will argue, but it was 6 years later, how could this be connected? Well, let's not forget, the streets play the long game. Revenge doesn't expire. They'll wait years if they have to for the perfect moment. And Tekashi's antics didn't help. Every time he bragged about snitching, every time he beefed with Chicago rappers, every time he popped up online clowning his enemies, he kept the fire alive. And sadly, that fire burned everyone close to him. So when Ariela was gunned down, it wasn't random. It was cold, patient retaliation. Fast forward to August 17th, 2025. Early morning, Ariela finishes her bartending shift at Icon, New York, a lounge where she was more than just an employee. She was a fixture, part of the place's soul. She gets into her car, probably exhausted, ready to head home, but someone was watching. Someone had studied her moves, her routes, her habits. By 8 a.m., she's found dead behind the wheel on the Cross County Parkway in Mount Vernon. Multiple gunshot wounds, car windows shattered, bullet holes everywhere. The cops didn't even pretend it might have been random. This wasn't a robbery. This was a hit, a targeted execution. And when the feds jumped in to help investigate, that told you everything. This wasn't just some street beef gone wrong. This smelled like organized crime. The timing couldn't be ignored either. Tekashi's probation violations, his upcoming sentencing, he was already on edge. And losing Ariela right then? It was a psychological nuke. His ops knew exactly when to pull the trigger. But here's the kicker. 6ix9ine himself had been cagey about his relationship with Ariela. Publicly, he'd deny she was his girlfriend. Just friends, he'd say. But then when she died, he posted these devastated tributes that told another story. It was like he was trying to keep her off his enemy's radar while alive. But after her murder, his grief couldn't be hidden. Someone clearly knew the truth about their bond, and they used it to deliver the ultimate blow. People started speculating fast. Was she really his girlfriend? A close friend? An insider? The contradictions only added more mystery. Now, here's where things get even messier. Ariela wasn't just linked to Tekashi. She also had ties to another man, Nada Cartier, a suspected gang leader tied to Operation Mayweather, a criminal investigation into all kinds of illicit activities. After her murder, cops detained Cartier, questioned him, but eventually released him without charges. Still, the connection was there. Which begs the question, was Ariela killed because of her ties to Tekashi? Or was this about Cartier and his world? Or maybe, the deadliest possibility, both. Multiple enemies, multiple motives, one tragic end. And people close to Ariela admitted she was scared. After testifying in 2019, she moved multiple times to stay safe. But fear wasn't enough, because when the streets decide it's your time, running rarely saves you. Let's not forget who Ariela was outside of all this madness. She wasn't just 6ix9ine's girl. She was a Dominican-American influencer, model, dancer, bartender, known online as Langusta the Lobster. She had a fan base, she had a following, she had a life. At 33, she was a mother of 2 teenage daughters, someone her community adored. But because of her connections, first with Tekashi, then with Cartier, she became entangled in worlds where loyalty means everything and betrayal means death. And when she took the stand in 2019, her fate was sealed. Whether she knew it or not, she had crossed a line the streets never forgive. Even after everything, the snitching, the retaliation, the danger, Tekashi still doubled down. He bragged, "Yeah, I ratted," and even compared it to people secretly liking R. Kelly's scandalous kink, saying, "Nobody admits it, but I did, and I'm proud." That arrogance kept the target on his back, and tragically, on the backs of those around him. In the streets, remorse can cool the heat, but flaunting betrayal only fuels revenge. Ariela paid that price. By late August 2025, no arrests had been made. For her family and daughters, all that remains is grief and rage. Ariela's murder wasn't random. It was the fallout of a war Tekashi started years ago. They couldn't touch him, so they got her. This whole saga, Tekashi's abuse, his snitching, Ariela's testimony, and her murder, is a grim reminder. In the streets, betrayal never dies. Tekashi can flaunt his fame, but Ariela's daughters will grow up without a mother, and that's the part no one forgets.